Yo, yo, YouTube. Here we are, the finale. Well, the finale for Black Widow in this current MCU timeline. Her last movie appearance before the standalone Black Widow movie that's coming out in May of 2020, Avengers Endgame. And in my opinion, as I've watched this movie now close to 300 times, the Black Widow's story, not only over the MCU, but in this film, this part of the Infinity Saga, is probably the most realized character, considering where she's come from. I mean, we all remember in Iron Man 2 and even in Avengers, she was kind of like one-dimensional. There was little strands of goodness coming out of her, and for the majority, she wanted to shed this Black Widow person that the KGB turned her into, and basically become her own person. And at the beginning of Endgame, I mean, we just saw half of the world, half of everything alive, get snapped out of existence by Thanos. And Natasha is just like not accepting it. Like, she's just, no, we need to make this right. Like, if there's a way, we can figure it out. And next thing you know, Captain Marvel shows up. She's like, yo, where's Nick Fury? And this is not in any of the movies, but we're basically made to assume that they explain to Captain Marvel, like, yo, you're just like a little too late. Like, Fury probably should have sent that pager to you like a little bit earlier. And the only thing that we know is that Tony's still alive. He's just like on another planet. I think Rocket must have known where the Benatar was, because he's got some tracking thing on it, and he's like, yeah, it's flying out in the middle of space. Like, he's basically dead. Him and Nebula. And Captain Marvel's like, all right, well, I'll go get him. And she leaves, and she rescues Tony, and she brings him back, and she's like, yo, why don't we just go kill Thanos and take all the stones and bring everyone back? And Cap and Natasha are like, yeah, why don't we do that? Like, we at least have to give that a try. So they end up getting on the Benatar when Captain Marvel brings Iron Man back. He's like just too weak because he was in space for like a month, and he's got like, I don't know, he's probably been surviving on barely any food. So they're like, you can, and Iron Man's all pissed off at Cap for not being in Titan when they fought Thanos, before Thanos beats up everyone in Wakanda. Iron Man, Spider-Man, that's when we lose Spider-Man. It's when he gets snapped out of existence, and the rest of the Guardians. So Iron Man takes he sits this one out, and they get on the Benatar. They fly out to where they think Thanos is, and basically Captain Marvel's like, yo, I think he's the only one living on this planet. Because Nebula's like, he always had a retirement plan. He said he was going to retire here after he snaps everything and evens everything out, in his opinion. And they're like, yeah, great. Thanos has a retirement plan. So Captain Marvel goes with everyone to this planet called Titan 2, I believe is what they're like unofficially calling it. The Garden. I may have that wrong. So in the comments below, just correct me. You guys are going to be correcting me a lot. I'm not like a super expert. I just really enjoy these movies, and I want to talk about them with you, so I can just know more and enjoy it more. Because the more you dive into this stuff, the more enjoyable they are. So Captain Marvel goes down, finds out that Thanos is the only one on this planet, so let's just go get him. And yes, they show us Thanos. He's all messed up from the gauntlet, but he looks like even worse than he did after he did the first snap, right before Thor tried to kill him. And then, so Captain Marvel comes flying in and just puts him in a headlock. She's got her foot on the glove, so he can't use it. And then Banner comes up through the bottom of the floor in the Hulk armor, and then Rhodey comes smashing him through the roof, so they got both of his arms all locked up, and then Thor comes flying in, chops off the hand with the gauntlet. The gauntlet goes flying. Cap and Black Widow come in like, yo, we got you, dude. Rocket rolls over the gauntlet, all the stones are gone. So it turns out Thanos destroyed all the stones. So he's like, yo, I used the stones for what they were for, and then I just didn't want all that power again. So I used the stones. I destroyed the stones. It almost killed me. And they've been reduced to atoms. They don't exist anymore. And everyone is just stunned. And Rhodey's like, he's got to be lying, and Nebula's like, yo, he just doesn't lie. Trust me, he's so evil, but he doesn't lie. And then the next thing you know, Thanos is about to say something to Nebula, like, oh, daughter, I should have maybe treated you better. And the next thing you know, Stormbreaker comes flying in, takes Thanos' head off, which I thought was not allowed in Disney movies. I didn't think beheadings were allowed. I thought that was one of, the Disney rules. But apparently if you're Thanos, those rules don't apply. And Thor chops his head off, and you can feel it instantly, even when Rocket goes, what did you do? And you even hear Banner go, what? And they show Black Widow with just a tear rolling down, like, you killed him, and that's great, but it's also terrible, because now we're screwed. Not that Thanos could make the stones come back to life, because he did destroy them. It just didn't seem like the right move right there. And Thor was like, well, I was going for the head. And he kind of like slumps off. Screen goes black. We jump 5 years into the future. Which people in the movie theater were like, what? But I was like, I was expecting this to happen. And we come back to Black Widow, and she's still at Avengers Tower. She's still like fighting crime, but she's talking with people that aren't even at Earth. Like, she has up this hologram, group chat kind of thing where it's like Nebula and Rocket, Okoye, Captain Marvel, and Rhodey, who's like in Mexico somewhere just fighting, terrorism. But everybody else is on other planets. And obviously Okoye's in Wakanda. She mentioned something about an earthquake underwater. Okoye's like, don't worry about it. Hopefully that's a Namor Easter egg. There's even a scene where, just to drag away from Black Widow for a second, there's a scene where before they all leave, Captain Marvel was like, yeah, you won't see me in a while. There's all this other nonsense that's going on other planets, and they don't have Avengers, so I'm kind of busy. Nat says bye to all of them, and Captain Marvel looks at Rhodey and says, good luck, and then leaves. So I think there's going to be some romance there. But Natasha keeps Rhodey. She's like, wait a minute, don't leave. Where are you? And he's like, I'm in Mexico. We found like all these dead, cartel agents. And she's like, it's probably a rival gang. And he's like, yeah, but it's not. It's Barton. It's Clint Barton. It's Hawkeye. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I couldn't even describe to you how bad this is. Like, he killed a lot of people, and it looked like they didn't even have a chance to get their guns out. And he's not using arrows. So she's like, can you tell me where he is? Or where he'll be next? And Rhodey's like, fine. So, cut to Japan. And Ronin now, because as you know in the comic books, Hawkeye becomes a character named Ronin, who's a little more of an evil character. He's a little nuts. He's not as finesse. He's not the finesse archer that we're used to. He has this nasty sword, and he's just taken out all these mob leaders that weren't killed in the snap by Thanos, but are still breaking the law. He's like, you don't deserve to live. I lost my whole family, so I'm going to kill you. And he just shreds people up. And after he kills some huge, big crime boss, he's standing there, takes his mask off, and he knows someone's behind him, and it's Black Widow. And she's like, we found something. And he's like, don't. She's like, don't what? He's like, don't give me hope. And she's like, I'm sorry, I just didn't bring it to you earlier. So it's basically after the Hulk and Ant-Man and Cap and all them do the time travel idea. Let's rewind. They come back. It's 5 years later. Nat's done talking to everyone in that conference call. Cap comes in. They both start talking about, like, maybe we should just, like, go have a life and, like, not be, like, the Avengers anymore because Thanos is dead, right? Like, there's no, like, real big threat, so they think. And Natasha's like, you first. And that's when we get the amazing scene where she gets the call on the front door, like, security cam. And it's Scott Lang. It's Ant-Man, who was assumed dead because he was stuck in the quantum realm for those 5 years. It only felt like 5 hours for him. But he was stuck there when everyone got snapped, so everyone just assumed he was snapped. But he was not, and he comes back, and he's like, I was in this quantum realm for 5 hours. It's 5 years later. There's time control in there. Like, we can do something. We can manipulate time. And so they go to Iron Man. He's like, screw it. I've got a family, too. I don't want to do this. See you later. So then they go to Hulk, who is now Professor Hulk. Over that 5 year span, it took him about 18 months, where Banner combined his genius and Hulk's strength into one character called Smart Hulk, or Professor Hulk as he's known in the comics. And they're like, yo, you've got like 7 PhDs, we have this idea about time travel, can you help us out? And he pushes at first, but Natasha's like, yo, remember when I had to like say a lullaby to get you to switch from Bruce to the Hulk? At one time it seemed impossible to pull off what you are now. So Hulk's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So they go and they test this thing on Scott. They push time through him instead of pushing him through time. So it makes Scott Lang look like a teenager, then a baby, then an old man, then finally normal. And Hulk's like, yo, we figured it out. We just need to like maybe run another test or two. And with that, Iron Man shows up and he's like, never mind. Remember that idea you had? I took your idea and I actually figured out how to make it work. And let's do it. So that's actually when Nat runs off to go get Clint, because he's like, yo, we got to build a team, because they're like, yo, we need to build a team, and why don't you go get Clint? So she goes and gets Clint, brings him back. The whole team's ready to roll. They're going to they need to do like a test run, and they do it, but with Clint, because Ant-Man's like, yo, I don't know, like I was just in the quantum realm forever, I don't want to get like stuck, I'm not ready for this. So Clint's like, fuck it, like I don't care, like I've just been like this murdering assassin without a family, so let me do the time travel shit. They shoot him into like the past, I think, for about a minute on his farm. His family is there. He's like, oh, I don't care, yo, and he starts yelling his daughter's name, and then they bring him back, and he's back in the Avengers Tower in present day, and he's like, yo, it worked. It definitely worked. So they all get quantum suits, and they decide who's going to go where and when all the stones were, and it ends up that Nat is going to Vormir. Now, if you've seen Avengers Infinity War, you know what happens at Vormir. The Soul Stone is there. And they know that the Soul Stone's there at a specific period in time, I believe like 2014. They know that it's there. They know no one has fucked with it yet. So, Clint and Black Widow go to Vormir. It's the center of all celestial beings. So it's like the center of the universe, and it's where the Soul Stone is. Where, if you remember from Infinity War, the Red Skull is there as like a guide. Somehow he knows everyone's dad and mom's. It's weird. If it's a girl, he names your father. If it's a man, he names your mother. It's kind of strange. Unless he doesn't do that with Thanos. I can't remember. But anyway, he sees Clint and Natasha, and he's like, you know, I know your parents, and I know what you're here for, and come with me. So he brings them all the way up to that cliff, you know, and he's like, look, Soul Stone's down there. It's everything that you love and everything that you fear. And Nat and Clint don't really get it, and then they do kind of put it together. They're like, I think one of us has to die for the other one to get one of these. And Nat's like, okay, well then, you know, basically insinuating, then I'll do it. And Clint's like, yeah, I'll do it. Wait, what? He's like, you're not going to do it. And Nat's like, yo, this is the only reason this is my purpose. I have come from this soulless, dark, heartless assassin to basically the savior of the world. Because what she does is get them the Soul Stone. But the only way she can do it is by dying. And then Clint will actually get the Soul Stone, because that which he loves dies. It's a soul for a soul. It's an everlasting exchange. It cannot be redone. So Natasha's like, all right, fine, Clint, I'll let you do it. And he's like, okay. And they hug, and as they're done hugging, she flips him around, and then he flips, she goes to flip him, but he gets her on the ground, and he's like, tell my family I love them, because he's like, we're going to succeed, we're going to get the stone, we're going to snap my family back, so tell them I love them. And she says, do it yourself, and she shoots him with one of her little electric bracelet things, and he goes down. And she starts running for the cliff. Clint gets up, gets one of his arrows. He shoots it close to her, so the explosion just kind of makes her go flying off. And she doesn't go off the cliff. She just goes flying off the path where she was running, falls down, and Clint throws his thing off, and he just starts taking off towards the cliff. He jumps off. He's flying. Next thing you know, Nat comes flying, grabs him, shoots one of her grapple hooks hooks it onto his lap, and she's hanging there, and he's got her by the hand, and she's hanging, and he's like, no, you're not doing this, doing this, and she's like, this is my purpose. I never had a family. You guys are my family, and I want to die for you. I want to make the sacrifice, because when we do snap, they will bring your family back, Clint. She doesn't say this, but you can kind of understand it. It's like she had nothing. She needs to do this to save everyone. It's her purpose. And I just think it's so awesome because in the last moments before she drops, she says, just let me go. Just let me go. And he's like, no. And she kicks off, getting her hand off, and just falls. I don't even know how many feet, a lot. We all saw Gamora fall there in Infinity War. And she dies. And Clint gets the Soul Stone. And the rest is the end of the movie. Which, spoilers aside, I'm not going to go into the rest of the movie. This was all about Black Widow's run. We'll do Hawkeye. We're going to do a new Hawkeye parachute in from the Podcastle episode tomorrow. And then I'll have all the fill-in, filler episodes about Hawkeye following that. And we'll figure out what he does after he gets the Soul Stone from Natasha's sacrifice. So that is it for Black Widow. I cannot wait for the movie. It's going to be excellent. It's probably going to be better than we're all anticipating. We all know it's going to be great, but you know Marvel, this isn't just a regular old standalone movie. This will impact, like I said, the way we go and rewatch all the old movies, the movies set before, and it's really going to affect the movies going forward. And maybe even the Hawkeye streaming show on Disney+. So, like I said, up next will be a Comic-Jon Podcastle parachute episode where we talk about the new Disney+ streaming show, Hawkeye. See you then.